All right, everybody, we're going to get started. And you'll notice that we are here joined by our two guests, and we're fortunate to have them, and we'll be with them momentarily. But again, we are very lucky and happy to have you and to be here. This is our first ever Senior Advocacy Forum. And again, I'm Brian Tully, the founder and managing partner here at Tully Law Group. The forum is a part of our new monthly series, and we're going to be sharing insight from leading professionals in senior care and wellness, covering different beneficial topics like legal issues, financial issues, healthcare for seniors, for caregivers, for families. So this will be more of an interview type of format where we can bring people from local, from your backyard through the national scale, dealing with elder care concerns in the legal, the financial, and the care components. I'm going to ask if you have any questions at all. Here we go. If you have any questions at all, to please just save them to the end. There's going to be a Q&A box where you can enter your questions for myself or for our guests as we move forward, and that way we can answer them when we're finished. All right. A little bit of a disclaimer: this is not legal advice. This is not financial advice. This is not going to be medical advice. This is a general forum discussion about concerns that hit most of us as we age and deal with our families getting older. So at the beginning of the year, new year, what do people think about? Well, a lot of people talk about resolutions. And so what we did is we conducted a survey January 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, I believe, asking people about the top 3 senior resolutions for 2023. And I'll be getting to that a little bit more, the results, shortly. In addition, we also conducted a raffle within that survey, and we'll be announcing that winner once we get to the end of the program today. All right. Now, we are honored to have with us Raina DeDilectis. Raina has a bachelor's degree in nursing from Malloy College back in 1999. She's been a registered nurse for 23 years. Prior to that, she was a home health aide in patients' homes and a nurse assistant in nursing facilities. She's worked both at the bedside as well as in a supervisory and education capacity, both at medical centers, skilled nursing homes, rehabs, and in group homes. All right. Now, we're fortunate and blessed that she's one of our elder care coordinators, what we call our ECCs. So when we're working with a family dealing with long-term care issues, we have a Raina as a care coordinator help the family with the coordination, with the advocacy, with the crisis intervention. So she's a perfect guest for today because of her geriatric experience or senior experience, but also being an RN. Now, Louis, we're also fortunate to have. Louis Knopf, I've known him for a number of years. Louis created LK Daily Money Management following a successful career in both business and technology. I've known him personally. He's a skilled manager. He's a financial systems specialist, problem solver, and a negotiator. He helps families manage the financial affairs of seniors. He helps take care of their daily, everyday obligations and even helps them guard against fraud. His services include, for example, paying household bills, setting up and monitoring automatic payments, debits, deposits, reviewing and reconciling bank or credit card statements, as well as setting up realistic budgets for seniors themselves. So we're all fortunate to have you. So welcome, Louis. Welcome, Raina. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
You're welcome. So back to the survey. So back January 2nd, 3rd, 4th-ish, we conducted a survey, mostly email and social media. And we asked people to click what are their top 3 resolutions for themselves as seniors or for their loved ones as seniors. And we had different categories. We had the home environment, dealing with decluttering, organizing, making the home safer. We had a financial option, dealing with money management, reviewing beneficiaries and account titles, et cetera, organization. We had an asset protection component, dealing with financial risks and scam avoidance. We had a health and wellness component, checking in with doctors, getting prescriptions organized, increasing activity and sleep and a better diet. Then we had a social component, you're getting more involved with friends and organizations. And ultimately, the last option was relationships, improved communication and increasing time with loved ones. Now, the survey results were finances was number one. All right, that's what number one people are interested in, is helping them organize their finances now that it's a new year. And then health and wellness, improving their health, their nutrition, their well-being, and then ultimately asset protection and financial concerns with scams. So based on those top two, that's why we have Lewis and that's why we have Raina. Now, what I'll say is my topic, dealing with asset protection and dealing with avoiding scams and so forth. We're actually going to cover that next week in a webinar, just dealing with trusts and asset protection risks and concerns. So today we're not really getting into a lot of the legal component, really the financial and the health, which were the top two concerns in our survey. All right. Now, as we get started, the first question I'm gonna pose to Lewis. Now, we're going to take two different perspectives to this. So, Lewis, if you were to sit with a senior, here we are, January 23, and the senior was to say, Lewis, you know, this has happened in the last couple of years. Perhaps my spouse has passed. You know, I'm getting older. I'm not paying attention to my bills as much as I used to. I just have financial concerns, and I don't want things to slip between the cracks. So, if you're talking directly to a senior about that, Lewis, what kind of tips, what kind of strategies can you share to help that senior improve their financial organization?
Okay. The first thing, and the first thing I do when I speak to seniors, regardless of age, regardless of whether a spouse had passed away or whatever, is to ask them to describe to me what they currently do and what about it causes them to lose sleep at night. Right. So what are the main concerns?
Yeah.
Right. And I've seen everything from take a look at what's going on in my house where I have papers on top of the table, on top of the bed, under the bed, in the living room, in the bathroom, and whatever, to the point where I have no idea I haven't touched anything since my spouse passed away or since this happened to me and I got out of the hospital. Help, I don't know what to do. Right.
Very common scenario.
Unfortunately, it's all too common.
Yeah.
And my newest client is one of those types of clients. I just started losing track of everything.
Yeah.
Right. What can I do to begin to get it under control? Right. And then I let them know that regardless of how big it is and how bad it is or whatever, that old adage, when you go to eat an elephant, do it one mouthful at a time, is really, really important. It took time to get to where things are now. It's going to take time and some work to fix it.
Good point.
And it has to be done in a way that works for the senior, not for me, not necessarily for a family member, unless somebody like me or a family member is going to come in and help. Right. And what I mean by that as an example is, even though they used to be able to do things, they're not file anymore. They set up old things. Nothing was ever complete. Right. How can they do it? Some seniors are incredibly technologically literate. Right. And they can do things on computers. They can store things on computers. Others, forget it. They need to do things with paper, with filing cabinets and whatever.
Understood.
So the first thing we generally do to make sure that everything's okay is the suggestion is let's take a look at one or two categories of things, right? And we'll call it the immediate daily things. The first thing is, tell me all about your assets. What are all the accounts you have? Bank accounts, right? Brokerage accounts, IRAs, you name it. So that we make sure we have a good view of what all of those are, so that you can begin if you're getting statements, sometimes they think they are. They forgot that they set things up to come on the computer, e-statements, right? So that they can begin looking again and monitoring for things like you mentioned, Brian, fraud.
Yeah.
Right? Just to make sure that everything's okay. This is a good time of year to do that because it's tax time, which brings up the other thing we like to look at right away are tax documents.
Certainly.
Right? Those are always good to take a look at because they begin to show all of the interest-bearing accounts that they have. Because sometimes clients have gotten to the point where they don't even remember all of the accounts they may have. So, sometimes it's back to basics, but even if they're still with it, we need to take a look at all of their assets.
Yeah, fantastic point.
Then the other key thing is mail still comes in. The one thing you don't have to worry about if you forget to pay a bill, comes again, right? They tend to keep popping up. You can be an ostrich all you want, put your head under the sand, or if you've lost the ability to do it, they don't go away, right? So we try to get a handle on all of the accounts, what account is used for paying, all of the ongoing expenses, and in particular, if we're talking about seniors, really important to look at what we'll call utilities, things like gas, electric, cable, all of that. Because quite often, if a senior's alone and they go into the hospital, they go into rehab and they come out, you want the lights on, right? You want the TV working, the phone has to work. So you need to begin, again, the advice is to take a look at what they have, to look at the two big basic areas that are going to keep them out of short-term trouble, that are the day-to-day accounts that are being used, the day-to-day accounts that, unfortunately, these days, like you mentioned, people are trying to hack, make sure everything's secure. If they're online, what goes along with that is making sure that those accounts are, and this goes part of the financial organization, of making sure that the passwords to all of those are good, secure, and well protected. And there's someplace, should the senior forget them, where we know they are, where they know they are, or a family member knows where they are. So if you take a look at those two main areas, I would say that's the initial thing that we try to take a look at when we get involved, or if a senior asks, hey, help, I need help organizing. How big a problem is it?
Right.
Okay, where do we have to start?
Fantastic. It's real practical. The reality of, eating the elephant one bite at a time, I'm sure we've all heard that or something like it. It's very true and it's necessary. The snowball effect of missing a month or a hospitalization and coming back to a slew of envelopes and bills can be overwhelming. And as things start to build and as that overwhelm starts to build, I think it's just human nature for most of us to kind of just put your head in the sand and not deal with it. But we have to. Now, what we've done in our practice for years is we've worked with Lewis, with different seniors or individuals that don't have family support. And Lewis is able to come in there and organize just like he's talking about. And of course, he does it even those with siblings and spouses and children. But it's organizing it and making sure that things are safe. And removing that overwhelm, removing that stress, and helping to organize it. So great answer, Lewis, and I've seen it work firsthand. Now, Raina, going to the health and the wellness component, and it's going to be a similar question. So if you were approached, and again, in our offices alone, you're sitting with seniors, you're talking to seniors, you're talking to overwhelmed caregiver spouses daily. Where can they start? When you start looking at a senior, let's say over the last 5-6 years, different medications coming from different doctors, not necessarily getting out of the house, not necessarily being as mobile as they used to, not as social as they used to, perhaps. How would you address and assist a senior in dealing with, I really need to, it's a new year, I really need to make things a little better for myself than they were last year?
Yeah, Brian, that's a great question. And you kind of touched on all the areas I was thinking about, because improving your health and wellness is really multidimensional, right? Because we think about health as physical, but there's also that emotional and social health as well.
Yeah.
So starting with the physical, that's when we're thinking about, if we haven't been to the doctor in a while, let's get those annual checkups scheduled, at least with your primary doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's make that appointment and follow up appropriately. Is there blood work that the doctor wants ordered for you? It's a great basis to start. Then we can jumping off points with that. You know, are you up to date with all of your immunizations? What about all the other important screenings that you might be overdue for? COVID was like a hit for everybody. Everybody hasn't seen the doctor in, 2 years for their vision and their audiology checks. There's no shame in your game. It's okay. Like, let's just get back on track, with 2023. The mammograms, the colonoscopies. Is it time for a bone density scan? At that primary appointment, you'll have that really good conversation with your doctors about anything that's, due now or upcoming for you. You mentioned medication. Are we taking the medications that we're supposed to be taking? And are we taking them the way that they are prescribed? Sometimes doses change. Or do we have the current dose in our cabinet? Throw out the old pills. Okay, the doses may have changed. Things are expired. Things that are past their expiration date may not have the effect that the doctor wants you to have. So make sure that we have a medication list. I suggest that everyone, whether they're a senior or not, have a list of medications, just on a piece of paper if you want, snap a picture of it. And if you are a senior, send it over to your kids. If you text with your kids, just let them save it. They don't have to review it. They don't have to go over with you now, but at least they have it as a backup for you. So make sure that we're on the correct dosage of medications and we're taking them as prescribed. All those other screenings that I mentioned too, like the vision and the dental and the audiology, maybe we're due for those as well. When you're with that primary doctor, that's when we could talk about the other things too, like the nutrition. Are we supposed to be on a special diet? Have we been following that as well as we can? What are our hydration goals? Everybody forgets about drinking water. Water solves so much. It makes you feel so much better. I don't drink enough water. There you go. It's not something that we learned as a kid. I'm trying to do it with my children. And I think the newer generation, we're trying to encourage drink more water, We didn't do that years ago. We didn't always go grabbing that water. So
all we had was the hose in the backyard. Yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. But, bottled water is a relatively new thing. Seniors are not always reaching for that water. So discuss your hydration goals. Unless you're on a fluid restriction and like a renal patient, you would know that, you should be increasing your water intake. How about your activity? Are there activity goals? What's good for you? Is it okay to take a walk? Does your doctor have certain guidelines for you related to your mobility? It could be as easy as, parking a few spots away from the store and getting a little bit more increased in activity with that. Some people want to be more active. Maybe there's a yoga program that they could be attending nearby, or if they don't want to get out of the house or they can't, how about maybe joining a YouTube video, or there's Silver Sneakers that is, very popular, and you can find out about that through Medicare. A lot of your health plans will offer you that. Programs at your local library. Talk about all of this kind of stuff with your provider about your hydration, nutrition, and activity goals.
Great.
Emotional health is super important as well. A lot of times people don't think about that. Has your mood changed? Do you find that you're more sad? Are you more anxious? What's stressing you out? Those things should be discussed with your primary as well. Maybe it's medication related. Are you sleeping well? A lot of times I ask clients, how well are you sleeping? Oh, I sleep great. And then I'll get to a different question. I'll go, how many times do you get up at night to go to the bathroom? Oh, 5 or 6 times. That's pretty normal. Well, are you really sleeping great then? Yeah. That interrupted sleep, it does a number on you for the entire day and makes you feel like very run down. So really evaluate how well you're sleeping. 6 to 8 hours is great, but it's not normal for everyone. So talk about that with your physician as well. And if there's a reason why you're getting up, maybe we can address those areas so that we can have a little bit more restful night. More importantly, it's so important to discuss these kind of stress things with a trusted either physician, or do you need maybe a referral to a mental health professional? Everyone needs someone to talk to. You just need to be able to voice those concerns and
Sure.
figure out a way to cope with these things, you know, that's in a positive manner. As far as social health, we as humans are definitely social beings. Most of us like to be around others, some of us more than others. I'm a bit of an extrovert in that lane with me, but you know, how about just trying to make a lunch date with a friend or a phone call? We're Zooming now. Zoom can be a connection for people that can't get out of the house. How about, do you want to learn something new? Cognitively, do we want to get involved with Sudoku puzzles or brain games? Do we like to play cards? Just reading something in the newspaper, an interesting article, keep our brain and mind as active as possible.
Yeah.
I would suggest that. And it sounds overwhelming, but if we do one thing at a time, we'll feel so that we achieve something, right? So I made that primary appointment and now I'm going to go for it. And it's one step at a time towards a better 2023.
Fantastic. Yeah. I love how you put it all together, right? It's not, not to stereotype, but I think perhaps there's initial belief that we talk about health, we just talk about doctors, right? That we don't pay attention so much to the social or emotional. And those can inhibit, those can force us to put our head in the sand. Those can force us to, you know, not get out of our recliner and want to spend our nights sleeping there versus going to the bed. So great points, great points. What are your thoughts these days with doctors? Well, at times, let's say the doctors get super busy and we have all these walk-in clinics everywhere. Do you think it's more prudent for a senior to wait for their primary to be available or to take advantage of walk-in clinics? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I like a walk-in clinic. I have to
Okay.
tell you, like if you can get to your primary,
Yeah.
absolutely, because they know you best. Okay, so
Right.
that's always, so call your primary first, see if they can squeeze you in. If you're a
Right.
longtime client, they're probably going to try to at least get them on the phone or convey your concerns. If you absolutely can't, go to the clinic. These clinics have great doctors and nurses that are waiting to assist you. They specialize in that. It's like a mini ER, right?
Yeah.
And they can, you know, you're always going to want to follow back up with your primary. So if you do have an incident that you can't get to your primary for something and you go to that stat health or your walk-in clinic, please make sure that you do follow up with your primary though, because if they prescribed anything, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And, you know, if the doctor for some reason didn't love that you went to the stat health, then express your concerns. I did try to get to you. What should I do in the future so we don't have to go down that route again? I was trying to, you know, just get treatment as soon as possible. I think that's would be my best advice on that.
Good point. Good point. Kind of asking that one for myself too, because sometimes you just can't get into the doctor. But yeah, the walk-ins are good.
Okay,
Walk-ins are good.
so don't wait. If you're having concerns, then you need to get followed up, because then it's stressing you out and maybe it's really something, maybe it's not. But I'd rather go get checked out and it be nothing than it be something and now it got worse. So that I never suggest that.
I'm going to interject something here because I've done this firsthand,
please.
right? Make sure you check out, because they're popping up as, you know, like CVS's or banks would pop up on every corner.
Yeah.
Make sure it's a well-rated and, you know, and well-respected, you know, clinic that you're walking into.
Fair point.
Because, you know, I walked in, they thought I had a cold, I was wheezing, they prescribed steroids, they sent me home. I saw my doctor, this was on a Friday night, I saw my doctor Monday, he swabbed and I had RSV. And the doctor in the clinic shook my hand before I left. So you have to, it's very, but the thing is I went and I would go again, but I would go to a different one than I went to. That's why I'm pointing that out.
Understood. So back to you, Louis. Now, on the financial side of things, a lot of our clients, we're introduced to them through their children, right? So we don't always have the senior themselves coming in initially. Although those will be the clients, a lot of children are helpful. So if you were contacted, Louis, by a child, let's say a child in his 50s, early 60s, concerned about mom who's in her 80s, similar question to before, but it's a different perspective. So if you're working with a child, how would you approach, right? How would you help that child start to approach the mom or the dad for that matter, to help them start to deal with the financial issues and the organization and perhaps having those conversations?
So I get contacted by children a lot.
Yeah.
By children, by an aunt, by an uncle, or somebody who's concerned about a senior,
Sure.
right? Who, and then there are two categories of people I put in that. One that has very good relationships with people and are very comfortable talking, and the seniors are very comfortable talking and sharing with them. That's category one. Category two is they need the help,
Right.
but I'm not sure they're going to share things with me,
Yeah.
even though they're my parents, because they're very, they're private. They don't necessarily want to share it with people. So, so let's go to the first one where they have a good relationship.
Right.
If, again, I start with the child and I have the child explain to me what they've seen and what's led them to believe that if they're noticing it, or did their parents come to them to say, this is what's out of control now? Again, two different situations, right? But if the relationship is good, right? People don't like to be talking about and sharing their finances. They don't like to talk about death, right? And an important part of that is, pre-planned funerals, right? That people need, because it's a financial tool for the family, to help. So if they know that the parents are comfortable, again, go in, have them take a look at what they have, and then it becomes a situation very similar to what we did before. How good is it? How bad is it? And, and evaluate the different parts that are important. Do they have their bank accounts and all their finances organized?
Right.
Have they done their taxes in the last 5 years? Because quite often they haven't.
Good point.
Right? They just don't get around to it, or they forget.
Right.
And see the pieces that need to be dealt with first. Have they fallen behind only with credit cards? Well, now where you need to begin. Lights are being paid for. A few things are on auto pay. Maybe you can take a look and do things differently. Then that comes down to, are they willing to share access to online accounts? Some parents are, some parents aren't. And quite often, it takes a third party to potentially come in and help resolve that. But again, the situations are very similar. The question is, how do you have the conversation? And quite often is, Mom and Dad, I'm concerned. And at some point, right, you're going to need help. And I'm probably the one, because I love you and I care about you, Mom and Dad, whether it's a son or daughter, who's going to need to come in and help you. And I'm more than willing to do that. So given that I'm beginning to see things and I'm stressing out, help me.
Yes.
Right? Help me sleep better at night by starting to do things now before you have to. And before all of a sudden it's now to the crisis point, and then what do we do? And we have to start, right? As opposed to beginning to do things a little at a time and fixing things now.
Great.
The other situation comes down to what happens if there isn't that relationship with, or if the parents, have multiple children who don't get along, who potentially the parents aren't going to share things with, and what do you do? And that happens, unfortunately, a lot as well.
It does.
Right? Then it's, okay, I flash back to my son growing up, right? He'd have an issue, right? I could give him all the advice in the world. He wasn't going to listen, right? He wasn't ready to listen to his dad, but he would to my closest friend who he had a good relationship with. And we would talk, and I would tell him what was going on. He would give him the same advice, and things would change. So if the child feels that they can't do it themselves, who can? Do they have a relationship with a good friend of their parents, with an aunt or an uncle,
right,
with a third party, a professional, whether it's an attorney, an accountant, a daily money manager, it doesn't matter, a healthcare professional. Sure. Quite often, there might be a Raina in there working with a family, helping them on the medical side, who might be able to have that conversation. The important thing is you have to find a way to have the conversation. And COVID, as Raina correctly pointed out, COVID highlighted that to all of us. When a parent, a father died or a mother died, a senior, and the other one is, oh my God, what's going on, right? So if they're married, one approach is, look, beginning to see this, what if something happened to you, Dad? Or Mom, you're the one that takes care of all of this. What's Dad going to do? He hasn't lifted, doesn't know what a checkbook is. He doesn't know where your bank accounts are. You're the one doing all of this. Help. You're the one meeting with the accountant, one or the other, because quite often that happens in families where either the husband or the wife is taking care of the finances.
That's right.
So somebody wakes up one morning and all of a sudden they do that. So that's one way of dealing with children, is to say, hey, what happens if one happens to your partner? What do you do, and what am I going to be able to do to help you? And anything to begin to open the discussion. If that doesn't work, try other ways to get in. But those are the ways that we found that work, in most situations.
Very, very wise approach. And you're right, there is two separate categories, and we see that here at the law practice as well, where there is family, there is relationship, there is communication and trust, and then other circumstances where there isn't. So the going to the one that they would perhaps listen to is very sage advice. And just a reminder for our guests, the Q&A box on the bottom of your screen, if you have any questions for Louis, any questions for Raina, please, or myself even, put them into that Q&A box, and we'll get to them at the end of our forum here. In addition, please be on the lookout for our email invite to join me next Thursday on the 25th. We'll be talking about the benefits and the what are questions about revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts to kind of round out our survey issue, getting into asset protection and the other financial components. So thank you. Now back to you, Raina. It's a similar question because, again, you here as a care coordinator in our life care planning practice at Tully Law, we deal with children to start things off, or perhaps even continue with children if the parent has declined to a certain point. But if you were talking to a child, a caregiver, and the similar question where they're going to say, listen, Raina, how do we start to encourage mom to take care of herself better? How do we have that conversation? I mean, you gave a great list of before about the medical, about the prescriptions, the emotional, the wellness, but how do they start doing it? And I know in our audience today, there are caregivers, there are children. So what advice would you have for them?
Number one, I would say, I would encourage you to start the conversation now. I know it's a tough one. I myself have an aging parent. We're that sandwich generation, right? We're worried about our kids, we're worried about work. We're also worried about mom and dad and what's going on with them. And there just doesn't seem to be enough time in the day to manage all that. And it's stressful, right? But it's better to start the conversation early than wait until there's crisis. Like you said, we deal with a lot of families that are currently in crisis mode, and you're at a 10 and I'm trying to, the most I can get you down is probably to like a 7. But if we start the conversations when we're like at a calm zone, or maybe just edging up on the 5 or 6, we can get it down to a more reasonable level. So start that conversation with your parent from a space of love, I would say, and concern. Not, I'm coming in and I'm taking over, mom and dad. Like, you don't know what you're doing and I need to take charge.
That ain't gonna work.
That's not gonna work. It's more of the, I'm making my health exams this year. Have you made your appointments? And, maybe you can join your parents on an appointment as well. Even for me, when I go to the doctor's talking to you, you're really only hearing about half of what, they're talking to you about, because you're stressed out about being there and you're worried about a million things. So sometimes just having a second person with you can, allay your fears a little bit, let you listen more, and then you have that second person. So if you're able to talk to your mom and dad about their upcoming appointments, can you schedule a time to maybe go with them to an initial appointment, or at least have them, if you can't go, sometimes doctors will be willing to follow up with you after the fact by email or phone. You know, one time I was working, my mom had to go and I couldn't get to the appointment, but she told me I could call in afterwards. And I just reviewed it quick. Any concerns, any points that you wanted me to reiterate to mom? That's like a great way to start. And remember, as difficult as this conversation is for you, it's so difficult for mom and dad. They are used to being the caretakers, right? They raised you. So now they're having their child that they raised, and you're awesome and doing your thing and you're working in your family, having to come to them and saying, Mom and Dad, how can I help you? So there's that whole transition from, you know, caretaker to caregiver kind of thing that you're kind of almost switching roles. And if you start early, it's not you're taking over. It's I want to support your health. Okay, what are your health concerns? Mom and Dad, what worries you? And how can I help you achieve your health goals? If I needed to make decisions for you because you couldn't, I want to respect and honor your wishes. So to have those conversations early is the best suggestion that I have. And if you are in crisis, okay, so we're gonna break it down one thing at a time. Get involved. If mom or dad have a current health concern, Mom, can I talk to the doctor with you? Let me understand what's going on with you now. And I know I haven't been involved before, but maybe I can help and take a little bit of the weight off of you. Snap me a picture of your medication list. I don't need to review it again. I have it. So in an emergency and you're flustered, I have it. I'm backing you up. So just try to take some of that worry and concern off your parents. And again, the main point is they're still in charge of their healthcare. You are going to help support them. And if you need guidance, you know, you reach out to your network. There's lots of networks out there. I'm here. I'm an elder care coordinator for Tully Law Group. I'm happy to help any of my families, guide them along that path. And when you start the conversation now, it will only open the doors to further conversations about their wishes and, you know, their last thoughts, you know, for maybe end of life issues. I wouldn't start with those conversations. Start small. Talk about general health and wellness and, you know, how mom and dad are feeling. And if you can support them in any way with going to the doctors and, you know, getting some of those concerns addressed that they've been thinking about.
Great. Right on, Raina. Yes, it's and whether it's the legal or the financial or the wellness and the medical, it is a conversation that requires respect. It's a conversation that requires genuine concern. It's not bullying. It's not taking over. It's not about the money. It's not about the inheritances. That's not going to go anywhere. But one common thread that really hit both of you is it's the elephant. It's all about the elephant. You got to go one bite at a time, one step at a time, whether you're talking about the financial organization with Lewis, a professional like Lewis, or you're talking about the care concerns for mom and dad, the medical issues here at the firm or with Raina, you're better off going one step at a time. So that's the takeaway from me. So go ahead.
The other common thread or something that Raina said that's equally important, whether it's you know, the legal side, the healthcare side, or the financial side, is the earlier the better.
Amen.
My kids know every account we have. They know where it is. They know passwords to my computer. They know where my just in case box is on the computer, because I'm a you know, and put everything in the cloud, okay, guy kind of guy. My wife, on the other hand, takes it all and wants to put it down in paper, and that's fine. We're different. We do things differently. But the key is the sooner the better, right? Organize it in whatever way works for the individual you're dealing with, whether it's financial, medical, or whatever.
Great summary. So Lewis, if somebody wanted to talk to you more, how can they contact you?
They can go to my website. It's lkmoneymgmt.com. They can you know, get my phone number there. If they want to contact me, Brian, they have the email address that they responded to you. I'm more than happy to share my info, or you can share my information with anybody that registered for this if they do reach out. And I'm happy to talk. I spent a lot of time talking to people on the phone, sometimes for 45 minutes, an hour, give them advice on what they need to do for themselves. They're not going to need me. They can do it alone, and that's fine. It's about helping people.
Great, great, great. And we're fortunate to have Raina here with us at the law firm. So I'll just share that number, Raina. So we're at 631-424-2800. And as Raina shared, she's an elder care coordinator working with our life care planning clients. Website is tullyelderlaw.com, Tully, elderlaw.com. So if there's let's see if there's any questions. While I'm checking that, the winner of our raffle. So what we did is, for everybody that completed the survey, we have $1,000 coupon, a discount, if you will, for our planning and legal services. And the real fortunate lucky winner is Rosemary Gallego. And Rosemary Gallego is the winner of that certificate. So Rosemary, we have your contact information. Casey from my office will be reaching out to you to share that information with you and how it works. All right. So again, thank you for participating in that survey. And again, Louis, thank you very much. I'm very grateful we invited you to be a part of this, because you shared exactly where we were going and what we were looking for. And I'm sure it helped a lot of people.
I appreciate that. I'll just share my phone number.
Good. Go ahead. You got it.
516-528-0206. Happy to answer any of your specific questions if you have any.
Perfect. Perfect. And Raina, you did great. You answered everything. It was perfect. So again, thank you to you both. I'm grateful we were able to do this, and join us next month for our next Senior Advocacy Forum. And you'll be getting emails about next week's webinar, where we'll get into trust planning and what's a trust and why you need one. All right. So again, thank you, everybody. We are finished for today, and stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brian.